So we've talked at length on this channel about Nintendo Switch 2 and with its upgraded power, just how many more games it will be capable of running, not only from a first-party perspective, but mainly from a third-party perspective, because we have a lot of games that have come out over the last 5+ years that have just skipped the Switch entirely. Some of the library even older than that. Like, you do have to realize that not every PS4, Xbox One era game actually made it to Nintendo Switch. There were many of them that just haven't, or we have some of them as cloud ports, aka the Kingdom Hearts collection, that literally Square Enix decided to bring that whole series to the Nintendo Switch and did it all as cloud ports because they couldn't easily get all of the games to run natively. I think you could have gotten everything easily to run natively on the Switch other than Kingdom Hearts 3, but nonetheless, that was the route that they went, and that's the route a lot of developers went if they ported their games at all, because they knew that they would have to jump through additional hoops to make their games work well on this console. Well, we have seen numerous reports over the course of time, some of which from very credible names like Tom Henderson, suggest that once the Switch 2 is revealed, we will see nothing but coming to Xbox Series X, S, PlayStation 5, and Nintendo Switch 2, with numerous games that are being revealed during the end of 2024, some of which at like Summer Games Fest and over the would have been E3 time this year. I'm sure we will get updated trailers for it that confirm support for Nintendo's next gen console, but also a backlog of existing games that were essentially just waiting for Nintendo to have more powerful hardware. And you know, when they look at the 141+ million install base of the current Switch, that's going to be a lot of money to be made with the successor to that console, considering that Nintendo doesn't fumble it from a marketing perspective, and I don't think they will this time around. They built a very good core user base with the Nintendo Switch. Lots of these users will want to upgrade to the next gen hardware, and I do believe that third parties will show up in a big way, and we do have some brand new leaks and claims suggesting that Ubisoft will be there in a big way with one of their big brand new marquee Assassin's Creed titles and a backlog and handful of missing ones from the Switch, which I honestly think is a no-brainer, but we are going to get on the same page with the leak, what's being claimed, how likely it is, which is very likely in my opinion, and just a broad revisit of the conversation of what we could expect in terms of third-party game support for Nintendo Switch 2. But before we get on the same page with all of that, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification to join Sunbro Nation if you're new here. And I want to first kick it off with the rumor leak portion of the video, which does have to do with Nash Weedle, which, to be fair, he's gotten a couple hard to predict things right. He definitely hinted at Mario and Luigi coming back in a big way before anybody knew about Brothership, but in general, the track record is not necessarily wrong, just a lot of information has been put out about things that we have not necessarily seen happen yet, and there have absolutely been some misses over the course of time. So I am not putting so much stock into this because it is this individual, but rather this is a no-brainer situation, and we do have one more credible name backing him up on one portion of the claim here. So you can see the following over on Our Gaming Leaks and Rumors, which reads: Nash Weedle says Switch ports of Assassin's Creed Shadows, Mirage, Valhalla, Odyssey, and Origins are coming. The exact tweet reads: Leak Express Assassin's Creed Shadows is being ported to Switch 2. The intention is to have it ready for the launch window of Nintendo's new console. The ports of Assassin's Creed Mirage, Valhalla, Odyssey, and Origins will also arrive, the latter two in a bundle. He also then clarifies the launch window does not have to coincide with the same day as the console's launch, but it is intended to be launched within its first 6 months of life. This has nothing to do with Nintendo's plans for the console announcement. Ubisoft is going to bet heavily on Switch 2. So Necro Felipe backed up the Assassin's Creed Shadow part, and the rest of it is all coming from Nash Weedle, but I don't care if you want to throw out those guys entirely. I think you can look at Necro Felipe's track record a little bit more confidently than Nash Weedle's, in my opinion, overall, but we don't even need them to leak that or claim that they know that to know that that's probably the plan from Ubisoft in terms of how well they work with Nintendo already, how close their partnership is. I mean, look at Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope, 2 different iterations of that franchise on the Nintendo Switch. Like, obviously Ubisoft wants their games to run on Switch, but there's going to be a whole host of them that they just never considered porting because the hardware power was not there. And now that that's not going to be an issue with Switch 2, it is logical that they will want to bring their games forward, and Assassin's Creed Shadows specifically leading the charge because that's the newest one that all the fans are waiting to play on even the current gen consoles, and that's one that you could really push from a marketing perspective around the launch window of the console, aka the first 6 to 9 months. It doesn't have to be out day one, as was pointed out in this post, but just look at the bundles of the older Assassin's Creed games that we now have available and playable on Switch. Like, if there's money to be made on a Nintendo platform, Ubisoft's going to find a way to do it, which also opens the door for the missing Star Wars The Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor. Like, I think those are a lock. We have Star Wars Outlaws that hasn't launched yet, but will be launching later this year, and I think that would also be a perfect fit in for Ubisoft to bring over. I'm pretty sure they did that Avatar game recently. I personally have not checked into that at all to see if it's good or not, but Skull and Bones, another kind of failed live service game. We don't necessarily need that. Far Cry 6 would be a nice addition to see make it over to Nintendo's next-gen console. They, of course, have Rainbow Six as well. So, you know, there's a ton of different franchises that Ubisoft could just start to do day and date releases of on Nintendo's next-gen hardware, and I personally believe they will. And it gets more exciting for me when you don't talk about just Ubisoft games, but really the games industry as a whole, now that we are in this more shifting landscape where exclusives just don't mean as much as they used to. Like, look at Microsoft right now. There are massive rumors and leaks floating around online suggesting that Microsoft is about to bring yet another massive franchise to PlayStation, their direct competitor that they used to want to keep all their games from and keep them Xbox exclusive. They're releasing select games, some of them bigger than others, on PlayStation itself. Does that not make you think that Microsoft will absolutely show up in a huge way for Nintendo's next-gen hardware and will really start to go to this more multi-platform approach with their software? I believe the answer to that is yes, and I also think that it'll be interesting to see what this next game is that's going to go to PlayStation. There's some rumors about it being Forza 5. It could also be something as massive as Starfield. We really don't know what Microsoft is entirely thinking here, but that's supposed to happen as soon as Gamescom, which is coming up just next week. And my personal speculation is that any Microsoft announcement you see made from them around bringing a game to PlayStation, you can essentially bet that day one or as soon as possible, that's going to be on Nintendo's next-gen platform as well. I already think Sea of Thieves is a lock. Of course, Hi-Fi Rush and the studio behind that recently got the rights acquired from somebody who bought them out, which is actually great news because it saved all those employees and like the team and everything behind Hi-Fi Rush. So hopefully we get a sequel to that game one day, but I do think that's going to be a lock for the next-gen console at some point. It's heavily rumored that it might already be in development, maybe even close to being done for Switch 1. Who knows, maybe they ran into complications around it, but Grounded and Pentiment, the smaller Microsoft games, are already playable on Switch, and I think as soon as you have capable hardware, Sea of Thieves and whatever this mystery Microsoft game is also a lock. Not to mention the From Softwares of the world, all of the missing Dark Souls games and Elden Ring, hopefully in a complete edition on the next-gen console, Baldur's Gate 3, Diablo 4, and so many more. There's just going to be a lot of content to play from a third-party perspective on your next-gen Switch, and then you have to stop and think that you still have to make time for the first-party Nintendo software lineup that we know to expect to be filled with heavy hitters, because yeah, it's been essentially 7 full years almost since the last 3D Mario game, and we're going to be going on 7.5 or more by time the console actually launches, so that's going to be a banger for day one. Nintendo's absolutely going to get back to their kind of one new major first-party game per calendar month release schedule, in my opinion. So you have the mix of the best of both worlds, which is top-notch first-party Nintendo content and top-notch modern-day AAA third-party developer support. And Square Enix, I think, is going to show up in a big way right away on the next-gen console. Get Kingdom Hearts, the entire collection, ported natively right away. I think that's a lock. I think Kingdom Hearts 4 will be there. And Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth are in this conversation as well. So lots of exciting times ahead for Nintendo fans, but let me know in the comments down below which third-party games that are missing, whether they be in the past or that are currently being marketed, do you most hope we see release around the launch window of Nintendo Switch 2? And do you think that these Assassin's Creed games that have quote-unquote been leaked are actually legit coming to the next-gen console, or do you think there's a chance that it takes a lot more time to see a lot of third-party support ramp up for Nintendo's next-gen hardware? So make sure you share all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below before you leave, regardless if we agree or disagree. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, turn your notification bell, and with that, I've been Sunbro, you've been Nation. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.